Firstly, my thoughts go out to all the Irish soldiers that are serving in UNIFIL and UNDOF and who are operating in parts of Lebanon and the Middle East. Apparently, we've over 350 personnel stationed over there, and at this moment in time, they're in groundhog, which basically means they're in protective areas. They're on standby, and God willing, whatever is going to happen will just blow over and they'll all come back safely. Getting back to my last podcast, I touched on neo-Nazism and extremism, and little did I realize that that particular podcast was going to have so much effect on recent events. It also, when the situation happened in Lebanon and in Gaza, it reminded me of the time when the Russians rolled across the Ukrainian border. Back then, I was shocked. But when I saw things happening in the last couple of days, I don't know, was I desensitized from it? Or maybe I had done so much research into the whole idea of military that a lot of things were starting to make sense to me. So where do I start? I want to start right back at the time of World War I and World War II, particularly in between times when the Nazis were starting to take power in Germany. At the time, there was a type of science, it was called geopolitics. And it was a German institution, I believe, that came up with a conclusion that the world is made up of 2/3 water and 1/3 land. And in order to dominate the world, you have to be in control of at least 2/3 of the land, labor, capital, and enterprise, in order to dominate the other third of the world. And by that kind of scientific reasoning, it was one of the reasons why the Germans started to invade Europe and eastwards into Russia and Ukraine. The consequences of that, had the Germans actually succeeded, the things that we have taken for granted today will be non-existent. We wouldn't have rights. We would be livestock. Thankfully, that never happened. However, for the Germans, it meant 75 years of compensation, reparation, apologies, and even today, you find the Germans, the Japanese, very, very polite people, very conscientious people, very mature people in this world today. When you think about World War, you're talking about groups of nations taking on groups of nations. The lesser evil would be one nation against another nation. And we see an example of that in Russia and Ukraine today. The consequences of Russia winning against Ukraine means that they will be setting an example. The Russians would then later on build up their reserves and take on Lithuania, Latvia, Poland, and so on. And the purpose of that will be to subjugate the people, to displace the people, create by kidnapping people from Ukraine and throwing them out into the eastern side of Siberia. What you're doing is you're diluting the Korean society, so much so that the society will not be strong enough to fight or to gain power from Russia that wants to stay dominant. The consequence and the obvious consequence of Russia losing that battle means that Russia will have to pay compensation, atone for their sins, and it will take generations for Russia to make up for all the damage it's done in the last couple of years. So we'll step back even further away from that evil, and Instead of looking at nation against nation, what happens when you have groups of people, militant hardliners, taking up arms against a nation or another group of people? And in this, we see the likes of Hamas, we see this in the likes of a whole gather of other terrorist organizations. And a militant hardliner is basically somebody who has come to a decision that they are right and everybody else is wrong. And it will be a cold day in hell when a militant hardliner apologizes for all the damage, destruction, and murder he has done. There is no law on the planet that justifies the murder of anybody. So therefore, militants are criminals. They have to be stopped. They have to be neutralized, because as long as they're there, there will be no peace in any area. But if you step back even further from the militant hardliner, then what you do is you take away the militant out of it, and all you have is the hardliner. And you look at the profile of a hardliner, and you will find, I did a podcast on Eamon McGee, one of my earliest podcasts. You will find individuals who come from marginalized communities, communities who have genuinely been trodden upon, individuals and communities who have found their rights taken away from them unfairly. You will find communities that feel that the world has turned their back on them. They're desperate, and therein is the very vulnerability that is causing the pain in this world today. There is no way around it. The only way you can neutralize hardline extremism in the community or in a group of people is you have to engage with them. And when you think about it, right-wing populism, they're an instrument for that. It's an outlet for those minorities to voice their, they sound horrible. They have horrible ideas. But by engaging with them and providing them an opportunity to have their say, and through discourse and through engaging with them, you can slowly show them that there's a better way of living. You don't have to go. Extremism is like a cliff. Extremism is like it's like a depression. Extremism is like coming to a conclusion in your life where you say, either I live by this or I will die by this. It's literally you're standing on the edge of a cliff and you don't realize it because you're so tunnel visioned into thinking that you were right, that you do not realize, but that there's a whole infinity, there's a whole headland back there of possibilities, opportunities, ideas, ways around it, positive, promoting life, preserving life type ideas and avenues to approach. But for the hardliner, they've focused in on this one little narrow approach, live or die. You need to expand that range for them. You need to be able to engage with them. It's like they're in the black bin of society. We just want to dispose of them and throw them away. That's not good on us either. You know, like I said before, murder, there's no justification for it. Extermination, sterilization, there's no justification for that. The only way is to actually engage with them and to build up their trust and to gain their insights and to respect their views, with the view that eventually they will grow out of that stage. They will realize there's far more to life than the death of your, how would you say it, your overlords. For example, a lot of mainstream extremists would probably consider rich people as the overlords. They'd consider influential figures as overlords. They'd what's her name? What's that singer's name? Ariana Grande, right? They think somehow she has some mysterious control over everybody. It's bullshit. When you look at millionaires, hardworking people, a lot of business people that I know spend 24/7, 365 worried about their business and trying to keep their business going. And they're doing that because they want to see their colleagues, their partners, their employees get a better life out of it. That's what they fail to see, because they're long-term unemployed. They're stuck in a system where they feel they can't get out, no matter how they'll never be smart enough to qualify for whatever. Democracy is so sophisticated these days. Like, for an uneducated peasant to come up with principles like democracy and group working together, community building and all that, they have all those skills. They just feel that there's other people out there who are just sitting there waiting to take advantage of them. And that's just not the case. That's just not the case anymore. And God willing, we'll see an end to all of this militant extremism. But it starts at home. It starts with actually engaging with them. And what else could I say? Yeah, what makes a hardliner turn into a militant hardliner? Oh yeah, this is a good one. Right. It's when you get a gun in your hands. I can tell you from my own personal experience, and anybody who has ever shot a rifle, they will always tell you they'll never forget their first experience getting a rifle into their hands and firing it. Why? Because firstly, you suddenly realize that you are in charge of your own destiny. You suddenly realize, I have the power of life and death over everybody in my vicinity, you know? And when you think about it, if there's no, if you were to introduce people, say young adults 18 to 25, to actually firing a rifle the proper way, you engage with them with regards to law, the importance of being responsible with a rifle, the moral consequences of what happens when you kill somebody or what happens when you accidentally kill somebody, and the reasons why weapons should not be distributed amongst the community, why weapons should be controlled. You should have access to your weapon, but you have to have responsibility, social responsibility, and people are educated to a level that they're able to go to a range, fire off that weapon, and will it take 5 shots, will it take 500 shots for them to just get over that buzz of firing a rifle? Just enough for them to say, okay, I see I get it. I see the power that comes from firing a weapon, firing a firearm. And okay, I'll just make sure that I'll never have to pick up a rifle in anger or in desperation. I'll only pick up a rifle in defense of the community, under the orders of the government, or I would never go out and mass kill people, because at the end of the day, all those mass killings that are going on in America, it's mainly done by people who are uneducated, unengaged, and simply don't know what responsibility is all about. So I do believe that young people, 18s to 25s, should have an opportunity to fire a firearm and to get the appropriate amount of education before something like that happens. At least that way, if they come, and everybody comes in contact with hardliners. Everybody, hardliners are not just in impoverished communities. They're also in business. You find them everybody knows a hardliner. Okay, they're the kind of people who can talk their way out of anything, And no matter how much you tell them what the way things are, they'll always tell you the way things ought to be. That's a hardliner, okay? There's plenty of them around. Um, so yeah, it is a roll of the dice, but by giving social responsibility to those people, by engaging with those people regularly, you can prevent them from doing anything stupid. That's my unqualified opinion, and I'm sure there's plenty of people who would have other opinions. I hope there's better than mine, but I hope this helps. That's all I have to say. Take care. And have I anything positive to say about hardliners? We do see them all the time. Um, yeah, they do have very strong views on everything, and you do need people with strong views as well. They do, some of them do actually strike off in the right direction. And you know, if you were to encourage them, if you were to keep them pointed in the right direction, not only will they succeed in getting whatever it is, the best things in life, but they'll also benefit the people that are around them, including yourself. So it's not all doom and gloom being a hardliner. We need them just as much as we do the softliners, I guess. That's all I have to say. Take care.